Again, I continue to believe that Bitcoin is headed higher up to the upper channel line in order to form a divergence on the RSI. Now, we did move higher, and the RSI is not moving higher, so we do have a divergence, but really it's with a topping tail. So again, we need to see a strong close above the previous close over here. The RSI doesn't look at the shadows; it just looks at the close bars. In the weekly time frame, we only get 1 bar per week. So I do think this divergence is developing, and it's not just on the RSI; it's a lot of different. Now, just real fast, please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. Follow the link; it'll take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. I don't have any sponsors. I turn those offers down because I don't want to send you to exchanges that want to get you leveraged up to wipe you out. Want to sell you a bunch of junk you don't need. Just ask that you do what you can to help out, but I need to hear from you in order to make it work. So please take a moment, support the channel today. Watch the video all the way through. You want to see the why Bitcoin is going to go higher. So update you on my Elliott wave count as well, my longer term count. My signals are suggesting we're going to get a back test or test the trend line again on Bitcoin and likely get a Fibonacci retracement. I believe that that is going to be the case. I predicted we would bounce off the trend line here, and we did. Told you I thought we had a fake head and shoulders pattern, and we had it evolve into a bull flag, and that's the way it played out. Called the December top correctly, called the January bottom correctly. Signals turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame with the breakout here, and back over here in the daily time frame, they've been consistently bullish since our higher low at 52,000. We've had some pullbacks that it's warned us about, but we had the breakout, back test, and again, my signals in the daily time frame have been consistently bullish since the higher low at 52,000, with some brief bearish momentum turns. Put my weekly signals back to bullish on in here in the weekly time frame, which I've talked about. And then over here, the bearish divergences warned us we were going to get a December sell-off at the trend lines of resistance, which you'll see in this video, right slamming right into them with that peak right there with this negative divergences here in the daily time frame. Played out beautifully. We had an nearly 18% drop total bottom. So again, just nailing it because I have good indicators. Continue to be bullish on Bitcoin, but am expecting a pullback. Signals seem to suggest that's likely going to be the case. I believe this low is going to hold. And again, now we're going to hear everybody calling for a double top pattern. And I think we're just back testing the breakout of a bull flag. Bitcoin's going higher, in my opinion. And the divergences on the RSI and the MACD, they've been calling the turns. And again, bullish diversions here down at the trend line, bearish triple diversions. I talked about these as we were slamming up into the trend line and bouncing off of this one. Again, absolutely incredible calls. Signals have just been nailing it. That triple bearish diversions at the December high, and I talked about that as we were slamming into the trend line. We were told, oh, no, there's no way we're going to sell off, and yet the signal played out beautifully. This trend line, again, the bullish diversions, and look at the MACD, the bearish diversions there. Wasn't a triple, but it was a bearish divergence that formed here with the peak there at December, and then our bullish diversions. I told you that, again, if we came down and made a lower low, we would likely see the MACD and the price oscillator form bullish divergences. That's exactly what happened. I think we're going to get a back test, but then I think we're going to resume the advance and go above this area of resistance. We're kind of stalling out at this horizontal resistance at the moment. This 108,000 just moved above it, moving to 109,000. So again, I think further consolidation with the back test, and then I think we go higher towards 125,000 or so. Our linear scaling, it's a little bit lower, around 117,000. I think we'll end up blowing through that area. Just say one other thing on the daily chart here. We've got Pring Parameter trying to firm up here. I think Pring Parameter is going to form a massive negative divergence. I don't think it's done yet, but I think it's going to go higher and end up forming this divergence here, probably on into the month of February. Maybe it drags on into the first quarter here, later in the first quarter, but I do think Bitcoin is going higher. I want to show you Pring Parameter there, and 4-hour chart. Again, we had the divergence develop on the RSI and the MACD with the inauguration day, and so far that high is holding. Again, going to be watching if we back test the trend line yet again. Here, again, the head and shoulders evolved into a bull flag pattern. I told you I thought it was a fake head and shoulders, just like I think this is a fake double top pattern, unless we see my weekly signals begin to turn back to bearish. But again, I think that we're going to back test yet again, get a Fibonacci retracement, and then I think we go higher. The MACD, again, another divergence here. It was a bullish divergences that marked the bottom. Again, talked about that at the time. Bearish divergences are likely going to give us a bigger pullback here to get another back test of the breakout of the bull flag. The 4-hour time frame, again, I think parameter will remain in positive territory as we back test, but I do think we're going to get another back test. We got an immediate one. I think we'll get another one, a bigger one, that will likely take us back below 100,000, and then we'll see what happens. So you got the 50 back above the 200 here on the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. So again, I think we'll get a Fibonacci retracement. I think this low is likely going to hold. And when we get a higher low, then I think we're going to get the subwave 3 of that minor wave 5. And so I think we'll get an explosive move higher, closer towards 120 to 125,000. You watch the video all the way through. Important things going on. It's not time to be falling asleep at the wheel here. Some more bullish things happen, short-term bearish likely, and then some very bearish longer-term things probably happening once we reach our objective target for Bitcoin. Just going back to the divergences on my indicators, again, I'm looking for it here for momentum, looking for another upturn to give us a divergence and complete that here. Looking for it down here. And again, we already have the RSI turning up, but my other indicators, some of them are not turning up yet, and I think that we will see that happen. But again, the divergences have done a very good job of marking tops and bottoms in 2021, the tops and bottoms there, the 2022 bottom. These turns along the way, I think a divergence will develop here. Recently, we had bullish divergence here, and again, our recent lows there, I think we're going higher, but I think we will end up topping out. So again, I think that if we pull back, I still think there's more upside on Bitcoin. There's that 125,000 area. So I think divergences are going to develop here all over the place on my indicators in the weekly time frame. Okay, Bitcoin has now started the Saturday session. We're currently down 0.12%, down just a little bit on Bitcoin, pretty much flat. The Friday session, we tried to rally back up to the highs as we've been doing, and it failed. We ended up being up only 0.9% after a failed, whoops, I'm sorry, wrong one right there, 0.89% after a failed rally to try to go up and test the highs. Did the same thing on the Thursday session, up 0.29%, had a failed rally, and again, also back over here, we rallied, and then the next day reversed. So we're hovering around that 10-period moving average. That's the red line you see right there, but again, failing to move to new highs. It's likely that we're going to go to a little bit higher levels and then pull back or pull back immediately, and we have that peak, one or the other. You're going to get a back test of the bull flag pattern. Now, again, the herd, when I was telling you we were topping up here, slamming up into the trend lines of resistance that I talked about, we had two trend lines of resistance right at that area on our weekly chart. They're linear and our log scaling, and I've talked about it at great length and detail. You know what I'm talking about. Turned off of those trend lines. The herd told us this wasn't going to happen. We dropped nearly 18%. We had a nearly 16% drop here, and then I told you again we were going to rebound here at support. The 4-hour chart was warning us of that, and indicators. Then I told you again we were going to get a lower high. Whoops, sorry about that. Had to take a phone call. So we have Bitcoin having some failed rally attempts here ever since we had Inauguration Day. Now, Inauguration Day, we rallied up by 8%, okay, all the way up to a new high above 108,000. We went to 109,000, and the rally failed, okay, and, you know, part of the thing with the Inauguration Day, and I think we have, again, a continuation of the election rally. I predicted a bottom back over here to this trend line, which we bounced off of right on the nose. I told you, again, we are likely going to get an ABC move. And I told you right here, we're either going to get a higher low if the ABC move was done, okay, or we get this right shoulder looking, with this part being part of the head, not the right shoulder, and we come back down and we hit this trend line near our 100 period moving average, and then we bounce, and again that formed a bull flag here. 500 did the exact same thing, had a head and shoulders, evolved into a bull flag pattern, and then we had the breakout of the bull flag ahead of inauguration day. Inauguration rally to new highs, and then we're turning off of those highs. So again, either we're going to go back and test it and then turn, or we're going to turn right here, right now, going into the Fed meeting next week and get a back test in all likelihood, and maybe a Fibonacci retracement here from this low, this high. So again, pretty amazing. Also, the trend line on the weekly chart gave us this top. Talked about that. Told you we were going to go lower. I told you that, again, either horizontal support was going to give us a higher low, or we were going to go down and hit this trend line or the 100 period moving average and bounce off one of those levels. I thought we'd bounce off that trend line. We did. Both the S&P and Bitcoin both bounced off trend lines. So you want to see the amazing similarities, go watch my stock videos. And by the way, let me just say this. I just made a video. If you're interested in about Bitcoin is probably going to rise, complete the blow off top here, and turn, go watch my video. I'll link it at the end of this one. It's on my stock channel, the S&P 500. It talks about the recession, the coming recession. If you haven't already seen it, go watch it. Show you infallible proofs that we're about to enter recession. Reliable recession indicators that have not been wrong for decades. There are several recession indicators flashing. I'll link that video at the end of this one. Go watch that video. Bitcoin has never really gone through a legitimate recession period where the stock market's moving into a bear market. 2022 was not a bear market for the S&P 500. No, we dropped more than 20%. So what? During the pandemic, we dropped 35% in 3.5 weeks. Was that a bear market? Of course not. Percentage drop is not a bear market. It may be some analyst's definition of a bear market, but it is not a bear market. You don't know how Bitcoin will perform when the S&P is moving, pricing in a bear market, pricing in a recession, getting a bear market. S&P hasn't had a bear market since Bitcoin has been in existence. Bull market has been running from the 2009 low. It amazes me how the people that never saw the 2022 sell-off, that told us it wasn't going to happen on the S&P 500 and for the stock market, they're the ones that are telling us, oh, that's a bear market. We're now 2 years into the new bull market. It's a bunch of nonsense. Bull market never ended. We never dropped below the 200-week moving average and stayed below it. We never dropped below the 50-month moving average and stayed below it with the S&P 500. So we don't know how Bitcoin is going to perform. I can tell you how it's going to perform. It's going to perform badly. It has a positive correlation with the stock market, and Bitcoin is the asset that has the most volatility. So again, Nasdaq's going to tank and Bitcoin's going to tank, but we're not done with the bull market yet. Bullish phase here, and again, the blow off top is still at higher levels. The same people that told us, and I told you, the people were uber bullish over here, but then when we tanked, the bears started telling us, oh no, Bitcoin's, we're all going to die. Told you Bitcoin was bottoming, okay? Showed you my signals. We bounced up this trend line, which I told you we were going to. Momentum and trend signals were all flipping back to bullish as I correctly predicted this move. I think we're going to likely get another back test. I think we got an immediate one. We went to the new high. I think we're going to get another one, and the Fibonacci retracements likely be coming into play here. Now, if we hit the trend line again, we could come down here and try to move towards the 61.8 fib or the 78.6 fib. If we violate it and then rebound back above it, we'll be watching. Or again, do we go a little bit higher and then pull back, or just go off of this low right here? We'll be watching. But it is likely with the Fed, we are going to see cold water thrown on expectations for more rate cuts. Market rallied. Part of the rally with Bitcoin and the stock market on Thursday was, and it fizzled out here on Bitcoin. But part of the rally was part of President Trump commenting on interest rates and talking about the tax cuts. And again, they will eventually get the tax cuts through, but renewing the current tax cuts from the previous Trump tax cuts, but they're going to add some new ones. Eventually, because of the recession, it'll be like 2001. It'll be a buy the rumor, sell the news event when it happens. The bear market will have likely already started by then or about to start, depending on if we get that in the second quarter, first or second quarter, which I think it'll be the first or second quarter that the recession starts. But the president made comments about interest rates coming down, and Wall Street, they're addicted to the stimulus, QE, and the lower rates. Why everybody believes what happened in 2020 is just going to keep happening. What happened in 2020 is what gave us the inflation problem. The Fed and the government caused it. But Trump talked about rates coming down and wanting rates to come down. Market rallied and Bitcoin rallied on that. And I think Bitcoin's going higher, but we're probably going to get a sell-off on the Fed meeting next week, because again, the Fed is reducing the amount of cuts that they are expecting in 2025 from 4 down to 2 this last December meeting. And that's because they believe that they should be really concerned about inflation, which again, they should not be concerned about inflation right now. They should be concerned about the recession. The recession will deal with the inflation that's about to happen with the deflationary bust. And I promise you, inflation's still going to rise. The Fed is still going to cut. That's what happened in the past. That's what's going to happen. Inflation back in 2007 was higher than it is right now. Still did the jumbo cuts. A lot of people weren't around back then and remember that. I do. I was there. But Bitcoin trying to rally with this. Again, remember, the crypto community likes Trump's crypto policies. And again, also hopes, the rally has been also on hopes of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. You expect a pullback, but then I think Bitcoin is going to go higher. But this is what tried to rally Bitcoin and the market, but it did fizzle out. I think you're going to get the Fed throwing cold water on this hopes of interest rates, that interest rate cuts with the meeting next week, and they're very hawkish when they should be dovish. The inflation was rising up to 9%. At the end of 2021, it rose to 7%. They told us it was transitory. Then it kept rising, went to 9%. They finally figured it out. Once we got it up there, they finally figured out, gee, it's not transitory. The Fed makes policy mistake after policy mistake. Making one right now, where they're about to pause next week, and the markets will probably sell off on that and throw cold water on what President Trump is hoping for. And by the way, President Trump is going to get his wish for lower rates, but unfortunately for him, it's because we're going to start a recession. He's going to inherit a recession before he ever became president, before the election. The recession signals are telling us we're about to go and move into a recession in the not too distant future. He's going to get his wish. The Fed is going to lower the rates, but they're going to be doing it because recession. Right now, if you go watch the video I link at the end of this one, right now, Fed fund futures and betting markets are betting that we'll get maybe one cut between now and towards the end of October of 2026. So nearly 2 years, they're expecting, well, we might get one cut. I'm telling you, over that 2-year period, we're going to get rates slashed down because a recession will begin. Eventually, we'll have a black swan event. The black swan event comes after the recession begins and the stock market begins to turn down. And Bitcoin will turn down sharply with the stock market. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? I think Powell next week is going to throw cold water on what the president was saying on Thursday that sparked the rally in the stock market and with Bitcoin. But then we're likely going to continue higher once we pull back and backtest the bull flag on Bitcoin and the S&P. They both have bull flag patterns. It's pretty remarkable, the similarities. So that was part of the Thursday rally. And again, there's also been some concerns about the tariffs and being inflationary. And Wall Street loves Trump's economic policies, but they can't stand his tariffs because they believe that they cause inflation. They don't cause inflation, but we had some volatility with that. Now, again, the herd told us we weren't going to get the sell-off. We dropped 18%. The herd got very bearish down here. I told you a bottom had formed, and we rose nearly 23%. We're likely going to get a pullback and come in here to one of these Fibonacci's or go a little bit higher and come back into a Fibonacci level. If we have peaked right here with inauguration day for the short term, we could get that pullback, and then we can continue on our way and go higher and go above the peak here that we got to on inauguration day. So that's what I think is happening. I remain bullish, but I do expect Bitcoin's going to pull back. We've had a 23% move on Bitcoin. Nothing goes straight up, nothing goes straight down. We're likely going to digest the gains and get a pullback towards the moving averages, towards the Fibonacci's, and then maybe towards our trend line here and the upper boundary of the bull flag. So that's what I think is going to happen. But like I said, we may go a little bit higher and then do it, or do it immediately here as we go into the Fed meeting. That peak may hold for now. Regardless of which way it plays out, I do think we do get a pullback in a Fibonacci retracement. I do believe we're in minor wave 5, and this is our first subwave here. Whether it's done or not, I'm not sure. I think it very well could be. And again, I'll be looking for a pullback for a subwave 2 in our minor wave 5, our Elliott wave count. That's why I believe Bitcoin's going a whole lot higher. I believe that the minor wave 5 is just getting started. And that's why when the herd, that's why I was telling you, again, I was looking for a pullback because I was expecting wave 4, and I didn't know if it was done with this or if it was this right here, which, again, I talked about both of those scenarios. And then, again, the herd was extremely bullish at the top. They got very bearish down here. So, again, I told you I thought we were going to finish the wave 4 here. And, you know, they told us the head and shoulders was going to play out, and I told you it's a fake pattern. Now they're going to tell us if this high holds. Now we got a double top, and it's over. We're going to all die. And again, we're likely going to set up a higher low here for wave 2 and then continue on getting the extended wave 3, which will take us closer to the 120 to 125,000 area by the time we get 3, 4, and 5, which is all part of minor wave 5. Now, I told you about all my bullish divergences. I told you if we went down to a lower low back over here, that we would form a bullish divergence and hit that trend line. And that's what happened on my oscillators. And again, that played out, and that gave us a beautiful, beautiful breakout of a bull flag. Our head and shoulders evolved into the bull flag. We got the breakout. We'll see if we get a bigger back test. My guess is that is likely going to be the case. And I think the Fed will likely give us the pullback for Bitcoin next week. The S&P will do the same thing. The reason why I told you the head and shoulders was a fake pattern is because I didn't think it would play out because of, I believe that we are wave 4, minor wave 4, and I believe that we've now started minor wave 5. That's what I was looking for, and I believe that we're eventually headed to this upper boundary here of the channel. Now, again, if we take our time reaching it, it's going to go a little bit higher. If we reach it in the coming weeks ahead in February, then again, we can hit 120, 125,000. If we take our time reaching it, it's going to go higher. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Trend line's my target, not a number. But I think that the 120, 125,000 area is likely. Then I think Bitcoin's going to top because I think it will have completed the 5-way push higher, which again, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think we have 5 waves here. 1, 2, 3, 4, minor wave 4, and now minor wave 5. Maybe going into here or going a little bit higher. But in this area, you know, 120, 125,000, maybe a little bit higher than that if we take our time reaching it. But that's what I think is happening. And then we've got we've got this push higher, this smaller wave here that I think is going to pull back, give us a higher low, probably a back test of the bull flag, continue onward and upward. And again, eventually reach this area here a little bit earlier here than I've marked or right there. But right in that, again, you know, 120, 125,000, probably closer to 100 to the upper end of the target. But again, if it drags out, then it could go on longer. So again, then I think Bitcoin's going to top. And when we get there, just like at the December peak, at the March peak, just like at the 2021 top, they're going to tell us, oh, no, Bitcoin, it's just getting started. It's going to keep going. Rather than a pullback like what we had over here or over here, you'll likely see a reversal at this upper channel line. And again, a lot of levels pointing towards these upper areas of resistance. But again, Bitcoin will begin priced in a recession, probably up at that trend line. Once it reaches it and turns down off of it, it'll likely mark the cycle top. That will complete my longer term count. The minor wave 5 will complete the intermediate 5-leg push higher I talked about. That will complete the primary wave 5, which is this whole move up here in blue from 4, over here from 3. So to complete the cycle top, and people extremely bullish there not realize that it's a top whenever we reach that level, just like they did over here, the 2021 top. And I'm just doing a quick Elliott wave update for you here because, again, I do expect a pullback. And a lot of people are going to go, oh, double top on Bitcoin, when I don't think that the 5th wave is done yet. And again, I believe that we're going to have beat this trend line and hit this trend line right here. Maybe we even overthrow it a little bit, but they intersect up here right about that 120, 125,000, right around 122 or 3 maybe or so, just eyeballing it. That's where I think we're going. And again, then I think you're going to get this ABC move down back to this trend line that's going to end up taking out 15,000. Oh, that's an unpopular thing to say. Again, my weekly signals remain bullish with the breakout. Momentum turned bullish just before the breakout. My signals remain bullish in the weekly time frame. We're going higher. I remain bullish on Bitcoin. At some point up here at these trend lines, we're likely going to top in the not too distant future. That will likely complete the cycle high, and then we'll get this dramatic drop. And again, nobody will think that's possible, and yet we will likely see the peak because recession is coming and Bitcoin will begin to price in recession. Bitcoin's never been through a legitimate recession. The 2020 thing was so short that, you had, 6 trillion in stimulus out of the government. You had QE 2.0, and you had, again, heavy intervention. This recession, we're not going to have that. Eventually we'll get it, but we're still going to have the recession the Fed's telling us we're not going to have. But again, I think these trend lines and this larger channel right here, we're going to stall right there. And again, maybe we overthrow it a little bit. But I believe these highs over here from 2021, excluding the shadow there, I believe are pointing to the next high. And this channel intersecting with that area. So I do think we're going to see this level reach. And let me just adjust this real fast and show you. We may even overthrow this level and go a little bit higher. I want to be clear about something. I think that these highs from the 2021 two peaks in 2021 are pointing to the next high. Okay. And I think that the lows from 2018 to end the bear market there and start the new bull market, the higher low that's set up with the low of the pandemic, I think these lows are pointing to the next low. I think this channel will end up marking the Bitcoin top and marking the Bitcoin bottom whenever we reach that level, which I think is probably going to be at some point in 2026. We'll reach this level here and here in 2025, here early on. I believe in the first quarter, we're going to reach this upper channel line here. So again, just want to make that perfectly clear. Those are my target levels long-term for Bitcoin. As the stock market peaks, and by the way, Bitcoin's about to reach a major trend line. The S&P is reaching a major trend line, probably going to go a little higher, reach a weekly. Go watch my stock videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. Nasdaq's hitting the monthly trend line. I think these major trend lines are going to create a huge sell-off for the stock market and Bitcoin, but I do think the blow-off top is not yet done. I remain bullish on Bitcoin, and I believe it's going to about 120 to 125,000. In this area right here, another interesting thing, I've been talking about the fib extensions in my S&P videos quite a bit, and I mentioned it previously with Bitcoin, but I want to continue to point out that the Fibonacci extension of this entire leg up here comes in right at the 1.618 Fibonacci extension of that move from the move down here all the way up into that level, and it is right there, that same area, 122,000 or so. May overthrow it a little bit, but again, if we reach the trend line by next week, you're looking at right around 123,000 or so. If you go the following week, and I'm talking about this upper boundary trend line right here, and we may overthrow this one just a little bit, but if you reach it the following week, that first week of February, you're looking at 120. Just right around 125,000, 124,491. It goes further into February, 126,000. But again, if we go longer we take to reach that upper boundary, the higher the trend line goes, the further to the right of the chart. But I think right around where these trend lines are intersecting, I think we could see Bitcoin reach that peak. It's very possible we do that over the next few weeks and finish minor wave 5 and complete the intermediate wave 5, finishing primary wave 5 and complete the cycle top in this area. I remain bullish on Bitcoin, but I believe it's going to peak in this area and begin to turn down. And then we'll be watching to see if the bearish divergences that are setting up in the weekly time frame complete right here. And I think they will, like we've been watching on the RSI, momentum and things like that in the weekly time frame. There's a confluence of resistance here, the Fibonacci extension, the 1.618 expansion, the trend lines here suggest that there's going to be some serious resistance here. Now, again, we had turned off the resistance of the trend lines I talked about previously, but I think we're going to clear it. I think we're going to get, again, these 5 subwaves in that minor wave 5 up into this area. Now, I warned you about the December sell-off because we were rising up to these trend lines that we talked about in the weekly time frame. I think we're going to end up clearing them and go to the next level of resistance. Now here, again, this trend line from 2017, you exclude the shadow right here from the first 2021 peak there and connect it with the second peak here, including the shadow, and it pointed right up to where we just turned off of. We were likely going to get a sell-off there, and that gave us the head formation of that fake head and shoulders pattern that I told you was going to end up failing, and it did. Now we're going to hear about a double top pattern, probably pull back test the breakout of the bull flag, and then try to clear this trend line. If we do, I've included the shadow here, right there, and connected it to the 2017 peak of the end of the bull market there, and that's pointing up here where I think that, again, we can go higher. The upper channel line there in the weekly time frame. Here on the linear scaling, the 1618 is not at 122,000, but at 115,423. So it's in the mid 115,000 area where that trend line is coming in. And again, can even overthrow this trend line just a little bit, still reach that upper channel in the weekly time frame with our log scaling, which I think is going to be likely. These trend lines did a very, very good job marking the turn in December. And I told you as we were rallying up, again, the signals all began to turn back to bullish with our breakout of the bull flag. And I told you again, as we were rallying, to be watching these trend lines because, again, we're likely going to stall at those levels. Now I think we're going to clear them and move to the next level of resistance. We'll be watching to see if we do get a pullback here to backtest that trend line. Risk is that we get a reversal off of these trend lines that I've been talking about. But like I said, I still think we reach the upper channel line, the channel from the 2022 lows that I've been talking about. Turned off this trend line right here with our log scaling. And again, this is from the 2021 low that separates the two 2021 peaks. And again, we came up and we just overthrew it. We turned down, tried to bounce after slightly violating the 10-week moving average. And we're stalling here again. And we've moved just slightly above that previous peak. Got to be able to clear this area if we're going to try to rise to the, let me just bring it in here, zoom in a little bit. If we're going to try to rise to this upper channel from the 2022 low, and I think that's where we are likely headed. So I think we're going to end up clearing that level before all is said and done. I think we'll probably backtest the bull flag and then continue and try to come up here. And again, depending on when we come into contact with that level is the question mark. We don't know. The longer we take to reach it, the higher the price goes. If we reach it sooner rather than later, again, about that 120 to 125,000 area. If we take longer, it will go higher. So again, these trend lines, excellent job of marking the December peak. And again, we were told, oh, no, there's no way a sell-off's going to happen. We're going to get the Santa Claus rally for Bitcoin. Yet the indicators were correct. And then I told you, again, we are bottoming there in January, the trend line of support that I talked about. And again, I told you I thought the head and shoulders was a fake out pattern because I believe this is wave 4. We're now in minor wave 5. So we'll be watching to see just how high do we go to reach this trend line, how long it takes to arrive there. You know, and we do have another channel. I've talked about this channel in the daily time frame previously, but again, if we do go up to this upper little boundary of the channel here in the more recent price action here from our higher low at 52,000 and the July summer peak there, again, it's pointing in that same area, the 120, 125,000 area. So again, we'll be watching this little channel as well. Again, momentum, bouncing off of momentum here in the weekly time frame. Again, momentum's bullish. Trend signals remain bullish in the weekly time frame. Momentum actually turned bullish right after we had 52,000, and it's remained bullish through the entire advance, even with the pullback here after our breakout of the bull flag. So again, my signals, which are correct, remain bullish. Momentum did turn bullish a little bit before the trend signals did. Excellent job. And again, still bullish, still blue, still pointing higher, suggesting we're going to go higher. I warned you last week that, again, we were getting that bullish accumulation signal with Bitcoin that was likely marking a bottom at the trend line of support that I talked about. That's a midpoint of our channel here. And again, I think we're rising towards the upper boundary of that channel. And again, that could take a few weeks or several weeks. Bitcoin will top in the first quarter of 2025 here, in all likelihood, up at that trend line whenever we come into contact with it. And then I think we will begin a reversal off of it. Bitcoin likely begins to price in a recession. Again, if you want to see the recession indicators that I'm talking about, I'll link the video at the end of this one. I have it posted on my stock channel. Subscribe to that channel if you haven't already, and you can get that information when I put it out. I said it is pretty remarkable, the similarities between what is going on with the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. They are moving in lockstep together. Actually, Bitcoin is kind of leading just a little bit, and the S&P is falling, but they are moving together, forming the bull flag, forming the head and shoulders. Pretty remarkable, and they're both headed towards their upper boundary of the channels. S&P hasn't reached it either, so go check those videos out. But watch the one on recession that I'll link at the end of this video. And I called it proof that the S&P is about to top and we're about to move into recession, but the blow-off top comes first. Same is true for Bitcoin. Remain bullish on Bitcoin, but beautiful accumulation signal there. We had the distribution there at the December peak. Those trend lines I mentioned. These signals have done a very good job of showing distribution and accumulation for Bitcoin, and we're getting that new accumulation signal right now. Live it, love it, learn it.